Whoops. Gould to do the invocation and Supervisor Bishop to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you and praise you today, Lord. We thank you for this great nation, state, and county that you've given us, Lord. And as you led the founding fathers of our nations, Lord, with wisdom, give us that same wisdom here today, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on December 16th, 2019 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel.
So
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion and action to approve waiving the reading in full of items presented for discussion, adoption, or approval at this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Official business to come before this board. 1, discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Mr. Esplin?
Nothing to report to the board, thank you.
Thank you. Any committee and/or legislative reports? We'll start with Supervisor Bishop.
I have nothing.
Supervisor Gould.
None today, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Watson.
I'll have a full report at our next meeting on water issues. Thank you.
Okay, good. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing today.
Okay, and I have nothing either. County Administrator's report.
Madam Chairman, I have no report today. Thank you.
Okay. And there are no meeting minutes to approve, so we'll go on to the call to public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request. This is them to speak, located in the back of the room prior to the meeting, pursuant to ARS 38-431. A public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the public body shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. We have a few people. Amanda Kaufman. Morning. Hi, Amanda. Yep, should work.
Good morning. My name's Amanda Kaufman. I'm at 6615 East Flag Mine Road here in Kingman, up in the Wallapies. I have a couple of things I'd like to just discuss and some pictures to go with them. So if you can give me a minute to see if they can find the pictures, maybe. While they do that, I'm going to start. I'm a 12-year resident of the Pine Lake community up at the top of Wallapai Mountain. And I've experienced everything from the ice storms to snowstorms, dropping more than 3 feet of snow in a short period of time. I've seen a number of accidents from inexperienced and ill-equipped and reckless driving at times on Wallapai Mountain Road, when the road should have been closed to vehicles that were not equipped for the road conditions or have an operator that's capable of driving in those road conditions. While there's plenty of signs posted throughout the roadways in Mojave County, people become complacent to those signs, and they don't know when to proceed when they're not capable of doing it. So that was evident again last Thursday, Thanksgiving. We were called out for a number of swiftwater calls throughout the whole county, and those again are people not paying attention to those signs as they're going into the washes, and they clearly are marked don't enter when flooded. They're not barricaded at those times, but don't enter when flooded. Well, we have those same kind of signs on Wallapai Mountain Road, and about 2 p.m. on Friday I was heading up to go pick up my brother. He was plowing snow for some of the neighbors on some of the non-maintained roads up there. And I was on my way up around milepost 4, this picture's from milepost 4, there's snow actually on Wallapai Mountain Road. It had accumulated. And as I got closer, I'm now closer to milepost 5, closer to that cattle guard, Devil's Dip. There's more snow. And then as I get up closer to, I'll leave it on that one for right now. As I get up on Lazy YU, there's snow and ice on the roadway. And we have those signs. We have 4-wheel drive, chains, they're all suggested. They're all sitting off the side of the road. And that people may need chains or 4-wheel drives. But again, they're off the side of the road. And it was slick, and some of the 2-wheel drive sedans were actually turning around. But the traffic was very heavy. People were tailgating. I saw a train of 5 cars that had a car length between them. And let me skip one. Here's one. There's cars in both directions. In this picture, there's 4 going up and 3 coming down. That's not how we should be driving in these conditions, but they don't understand that. And this is the turn, that 15-mile-per-hour turn. I think every one of you have done that near milepost 7 going up. It's just a sheet of ice. Now, right before this turn, when I'm coming up, there's a car parked. It's a sedan, it's a 2-wheel drive vehicle. He has his tires still on the asphalt. And we know that asphalt's 12 feet wide, maybe? And so he's got his wheels on it, and they're out there playing. They don't care, they're playing. It's a small road to begin with. Anyhow, so go around that turn. I'm coming up that grade. I have a car that's behind these cars here. Once these got out of the way, this car comes and he goes, now this is a legal passing zone, but he goes around this car. Had he slipped on black ice, I would have been hit head on, and that could have been a fatality. And it wasn't just me, it could have been a number of vehicles. As I get to Atherton Acres, this is what the road looks like. They're still tailgating. There's no barricades. Usually you guys have barricaded the road by then. This is at 2 o'clock on Friday morning. Roads had been up there. They came up there earlier in the day, but there is still 6 inches of snow in the forecast. And it snowed. I mean, it clouded over. It was snowing in Golden Valley. It was snowing in Dolan. This is at the bottom of the grade, milepost 10. Cars are still 2-wheel drive trying to turn around. You can see their marks trying, and they're not making it. A little bit further, you can see that these 2 trucks, they can't make it. They're sliding. They're trying, but they're sliding. I go pick up my brother, and I turn around, I come down, and I run into this at Deer Canyon. It is a wreck. It is a mess. There's a head-on accident. There's actually a weather camera, one of our cool weather cameras right here. That's a solar panel for it. The weather cameras had been down since Thanksgiving, so none of us in the public could actually look at it and see what the conditions of the road were. Had I known this was there when I left my house with my brother, I never would have left, because this was just a dangerous mess. Adding myself to this mess and the other people that don't know how to drive, I would have just stayed home. You had people, watching Facebook, you had people down at Topok that kept looking for the weather cameras, and they couldn't see if Route 1 was open down to 40. So those had been down. They're up today, which is good. Here's another picture of that accident. This car left its lane, it lost complete control, slid over and hit this pickup truck. Both are 2-wheel drive vehicles head on. Had the road been closed hours before, or had the county blocked it, barricaded it, just restricted it to 4-wheel drive or chains only, this wouldn't have happened. and it wouldn't have put us in that position. So all I'm asking today is that you guys request your staff to go over their procedures, their SOPs on winter maintenance on these roads, and I'd be happy to sit down with them and express these concerns, because we have the fire department up there that were called out for it. We had a lady that got out of their vehicle related to this, not in these vehicles, that had fallen because of this sheet of ice, and she got a concussion and she was vomiting. It's just stuff that could have been preventable if we
Thank
just
you
put the
so much,
barricades
Amanda,
up.
for bringing this to our attention. Mike, can you make sure that Amanda's concerns are met? And can you please put an agenda item next about how the county gets information out to the public when we have weather conditions like we experienced last week?
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Joy Bancroft.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning. Oops, good morning. I live at 4682 Linden in Topak, Golden Shores. Last month, I spoke to you about the properties in our community in Golden Shores and how they're overrun with junk cars and abandoned cars and how it's creating safety and fire hazards. I would like to thank Ron Gould, thank you very much, in your office, and Christine Ballard for, their support, looking into some of the properties. I gave them a list, they looked into them, they're working on them, and we totally appreciate that. And I look forward to talking to you more about it, Mr. Gould. In addition, I mentioned that we had a challenge with the Golden Shores Fire Board to allow the fire chief to assist us with identifying potential residential properties that are a fire hazard, which Mr. Hendricks, if you recall, you commented that it was the responsibility of the board. I remember you commented. Well, let me update you. At the fire board meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, with the fire chief absent, we learned that the fire board duties are strictly financial and budgetary. However, we also learned that they do conduct reviews for the fire chief. But at the same time, they told us that they could not get involved in what the fire department does and their operations or the fire chief. And so they weren't able to actually say, we'll take care of it. We'll get the fire chief to help you with your concerns. And although they said, we'll talk to him about it and we'll give you our blessing. So there was a room full of people that left very, very disappointed. Since then, I've spoken with the fire chief. He apologized for the confusion and informed me that he really has no authority to conduct residential property inspections or write citations. However, he was happy to assist us with identifying any properties that may be threats to safety and fire hazards next, into neighboring properties, and he'd do whatever he can for us. So through our efforts, we're really back to square one, relying on code enforcement and getting the county to help us. So the next question too is, who has the authority to look at these properties and look at them as far as fire prevention and fire safety? Who in the fire district or whoever has those authorities? We have no fire marshal to enforce the fire codes in our unincorporated area. And I'm sure there's other cities here that have the same problems, Yucca, Golden Valley. I know the big cities have their own ordinances, but we're kind of left in the cold to try to handle things as much as we can. So I guess what I'm asking is, perhaps the board could put this on their agenda and we could talk about this as a public discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick Dischinger? Okay.
Good morning, board members. My name is Rick Dischinger. I live at 4942 Mission Drive in Topak, Arizona. I'm a retired assistant superintendent of schools, and I thank you for your time. I wanted to also thank Ron for his help in our code enforcement issues. His office has been more than forthcoming in trying to help with that issue. I do want to say that a couple months ago I came and spoke to you about a variety of issues that have to do with public safety, and one of the things that I'm really concerned about as being a past educator is the safety of our kids. I really think that code enforcement could be the roots of helping our situation down there, in that we could help kids not live in squalor, help them not live in unsafe environments. So on that end, I just wanted to let you know I have been looking up all the things about code enforcement. You have an opening that apparently is due for an application deadline of December the 5th. I'm not going to apply because I'm retired and you wouldn't want an old guy like me running around. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that we have seen an increase in sheriff presence in our community. We do appreciate that. I would like to extend again an opportunity for any one of you to come down, ride around with me. I've got a real nice car, and I'd be glad to drive around the town with you and point out some of these really horrible conditions that are there. I also had an offer from the Sheriff's Department that we were able to form a posse in Topak, and we're currently trying to put together enough individuals to have that happen. I would also suggest perhaps to the county manager that a way to help your code enforcement people, because undoubtedly they're inundated with a mess in a lot of different rural areas, of putting together a posse-like group. And I know there's a lot of us old retired people that would be glad to help them do paperwork. I'm not saying that we'd go out and be the posse code enforcement vigilantes. We would simply help them check on places, see progress, take pictures. There's probably a way to get us inundated or get us sworn in so that we could be knowledgeable enough to carry out those things for those guys as a help. So I bet you could find some people in every community. On the closing note, I'd like to wish all of you a blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's all that's signed up. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
I would like to ask Tim Walsh if he could take another look at our code enforcement program that we tried to develop. What was it, last year, Tim? Or the year before, but it didn't get support from that it needed to go forward. So I'd like to take another look at that, if we could agendize something and maybe have some meetings.
Okay. Okay, seeing none from the audience, I'm going to close the call to public. Now we're off to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, items 5 to 40, will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion minus any items pulled for discussion. Note, is that we do the presentation first? Because it wasn't on the one on the internet, that's why I took it from that one. Yeah, that's okay. All right, I'm so sorry. Unwind that. And we have a presentation by Mojave County Employee Benefit Trust by Aaron Collins from Aaron Collins and Associates.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, I'm Aaron Collins. I'm the president of Aaron Collins Associates, 1115 Stockton Hill Road here in Kingman. What I've been asked to do is to give a quick presentation to the board summarizing the November 6th meeting of the Employee Benefit Trust, and then specifically in there to address the wellness program, the finances, and the prescription drugs. So I'll do that fairly quickly. If there are detailed questions on the prescription side, I have 3 people from the prescription benefit management firm with me, and we have a brief presentation we can put up as well. In short, the ship of state, as far as the trust is concerned, is actually performing very well again this year. We are literally pretty much right on schedule financially. The first 3 months of the year, we banked about $1 million. We had our first turn to the negative on a month-end year-to-date in October, with the results about $132,000 down. That's pretty consistent because the plan year differs from the fiscal year. The plan year is calendar. So what happens in that first 6 to 9 months is people hit their deductibles, they hit their out-of-pocket maxes, and then the financial burden really shifts more so to the trust for the large population. So we'll typically see turn negative in that final quarter of the year. So pretty much, again, right on track. I would forecast that we're going to come into the renewal season in a fairly good position. The way we're looking right now, I would say we'll be, barring change, and I've taken notes of never to say good things, because if anything less than spectacular comes out, you tend to get beat up a little bit. But I would say rolling into this coming year, we'll be looking at a very favorable renewal again. And for the public, the county's self-funded. You are the insurance company. So there's not some magical guru out there rolling in your money. It's just whatever you get and don't use, you keep. And that's how you stabilize your costs over time. So to bring that back, again, right on track, running very well, and heading into it, I think is going to be a fairly favorable renewal in July. Wellness program, kind of men's amends, half and half. The program has struggled pretty continuously to get participation fairly high. At that meeting, I made a point of congratulating Ken and Jade and his staff very sincerely, yeoman's work on working and putting together a group that includes representatives from Bullhead, from Kingman, from Havasu, but just continuing the need to get, frankly, it's a numbers game to get more people into the screenings in particular. The screenings that are done are like breast cancer, skin cancer, cardiac and organ, that type of thing. We refer to that informally in our company as the low-hanging fruit. If you can catch that stuff early, two things generally happen. Early in the progression of the disease, the treatment outcome for the person who has it tends to be much more favorable, and the cost, both for the plan and for the employee, tends to drop fairly dramatically. So the low numbers of participation in there are still a challenge, and trying to get people comfortable enough to come in and do it. We've spoken with Supervisor Angus, we've spoken with Mr. Hendricks about how do we continue to just keep it in front of the first line supervisors to make sure employees know that it's out there and that they role model and participate in them. Continuing with that theme, we've had very good luck, outstanding luck. I should say luck, participation in the diabetes program that was implemented. It's a web-based, phone-enabled program that helps people report and track their results and how they're doing, and monitoring, and gives them access to a professional pharmacist support network. Spectacular. We got over 40% of the known diabetics on the plan enrolled in the first 3 months. That's about 25% higher participation than we've seen before, so that's excellent. And diabetes is a huge cost driver because it doesn't occur alone. So if you're diabetic, you probably have a cardiac issue, you may have organ issues, you may have ocular issues. So getting a handle on those folks and getting them participated and educated so that they can responsibly manage their own disease state is really key. Frankly, again, we're going to be talking some more with the manager, with Mike, and with the supervisor, Angus, as the chairman of the trust, just constantly working on the numbers. The more we can get in, the better off we are for a trust. And then finally, on the transition issues, we did a PBM. It stands for Prescription Benefit Management transition back in July. I stood in front of the Board of Trustees, and Supervisor Angus very kindly reminded me in sworn blood this would be a spectacular thing. And frankly, overall it was. But we did have a particular glitch on a specific drug when we did the setup. And it involved levothyroxine / Synthroid, which is a thyroid medication that on the high deductible health plan, the way we had it structured, and I accept responsibility for this, I didn't flip one of the switches, and it wound up that employees had a higher out-of-pocket expense than they would otherwise have had. So we went back, got that retroactively fixed. We were able to identify 24 people who were impacted by it, and we were able to get to some of them and figure out how much money they had spent that they would not otherwise have, and then process reimbursements. Beyond that, Ken's staff sent out an email to all employees saying, have you had any issues, what's going on? They have advised me they got 4 responses, and that all 4 have been resolved. So we continue basically to work through that. So those are the primary issues: the financial performance, where we're at on wellness, and how the issues have been resolved in terms of the PBM transition. And Madam Chair, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the trust or the board may have.
Does anybody have any questions? Supervisor Johnson? Are you there?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I want to thank you again. I think another successful year, and I want to thank you for listening to the trust board and some of the issues that were brought to us that day, and that sort of gives me the opportunity to tell our employees that, one of the great things of being self-insured is that, we can take care of things very quickly. And if something is going on, if you don't think that you're being treated right or reimbursed properly or something's amiss, you can go to HR. You can go to your department head, and if you still don't think that's being taken care of, you can come to me, and we can fix it like that, because that's what we did. And so I like that we heard about it. I didn't like that it happened at the meeting, because we could have taken care of it before the meeting. But it was a good lesson, and thank you so much for doing that so quickly. As far as the wellness, I went kicking and screaming into this wellness thing 7 years ago, and I do think it's been a huge success. It's been slow. You said that it hasn't been as good as some of your other plans. Why, we don't know. We can, maybe consider the fact that we're such a large land-wise county, and that, you're talking about from Colorado City to Havasu and taking care of all of that. But, everybody has an opportunity, and I don't want to lecture, it's not my point, but everybody has an opportunity for preventative. We bring the machines to you, and we always have a problem with men going for their prostate exams, and I'm sure it's not pleasant. I'm not a man, but it is important. And so I think we were talking about ways to up those numbers and maybe work with the department heads and incentivize some of the the guys that are out on the fields, and make it so that they do it, because it affects our bottom line ultimately. I mean, you can't force people, obviously, but what?
It's just it's an interesting subject.
It is. It's something that, is part of the things that we talk about at the trust. But I do want to say that I think that in the years I've been here, and it's been now, 7 years, the trust has continually gotten bigger, better, and stronger. We've given more benefits and not up the costs. And I want to thank Aaron Collins and Associates very much for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Aaron, I just wanted to say thank you for such a great job in providing what I believe is a real basic benefit to all our employees. And we have one of the best systems in the state. And actually, I used quite a bit of it this summer in having 2 surgeries. But I want to thank you very much for all the work that you've done and all the problems that you solved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming up.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, now we're going to go to the consent agenda. Items 5 through 40 will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion minus any items pulled for discussion. Anyone have any items? Supervisor Bishop?
I have none.
Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Number 14 and number 25.
Okay. Supervisor Watson?
None, thank you.
Supervisor Johnson?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay. I need a motion to accept consent agendas items 5 to 40 minus 14 through 25.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
This is approve and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement to transfer a county-owned water well pump and piping at Mindy Mill Pit.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just thought that this item deserves some discussion. The backup's not really clear on what's going on, and I wonder if Mr. Latosky can give us an overview on that.
Good morning, Chairman Angus, Supervisor Gould, members of the board. This item concerns BLM's request to Mojave County in late August to discontinue use of the Mindy Mill site in the Yucca area. It provides easy access to the Interstate 40 area, as well as an ability for us to stage equipment strategically, as well as obtain water for road maintenance purposes. But getting back to BLM's notice, they had discovered that they had inadvertently recognized Mindy Mill as being a permitted use for the county to continue using these federal lands for equipment staging as well as water for road maintenance. And when we received that notice, we immediately took it upon ourselves to relocate any and all equipment. And then there was one last issue with regard to a county-owned pump that was installed at the BLM water well. And this item concerns the status of that pump. Quite frankly, our expense in removing the pump is quite extensive, and we see this as an advantageous to the county, and especially for Public Works, to consider Cavalier Ranch, which approached Mojave County Public Works with interest of continuing to utilize the well for purposes of their grazing cattle in the immediate area. So staff worked diligently with the county attorney to put together an agreement which absolutely declares what the county has known with regard to the lands, as well as the BLM's position, and as well as a hold harmless, that the county would have no responsibility on whatever action BLM may take with Cavalier Ranch in terms of their use of the well. So that essentially encapsulates the county's position in responding to BLM's request.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Latoski, why does BLM want us off of that property?
BLM has recognized the instances of findings of lead and arsenic in the immediate area, and their position, given that the lands are encompassing of hazardous materials, if you will, that it is in BLM's best interest not to permit the site. They were, they did not render this position until now, when they discovered that the permit that we all thought we were operating under actually did not exist. So BLM is actually going back to a square one, so to speak, whereby they're not comfortable permitting an agency in occupying the lands if there are known hazardous materials. I think, and I'm not wanting to speak for BLM, and nor did they represent this, they would be under the impression that they would probably want to see those hazardous materials possibly remediated before permitting. Now, how they approach and handle the Cavalier Ranch, that is between BLM and Cavalier Ranch, and that's again reiterated in our agreement that we make no representation on what actions BLM will require for further use of the well.
So, Madam Chairman, Mr. Latoski, if BLM then denies Cavalier Ranch the use of that well, will it then fall back on the county to remove the pump and the piping?
BLM was not explicit with us with regard to the well and the piping itself. They were more concerned with the actual equipment on site. That was kind of an encumbrance to being able to access the site. The well itself is drilled, and we're just speaking of the actual pump inside the well as well as the piping. So Public Works would incur about $7,000 to $10,000 cost if we had to go in voluntarily to remove that well. BLM has not been explicit with us in terms of having to remove any of that equipment. It's really not an encumbrance to accessing the land, unlike our equipment.
So, Madam Chairman, Mr. Latoski, they're not requiring that we remove that?
That's correct. They were not explicit in their August notification. They had mainly made reference to what we perceive to be the equipment. And since then, we've had conversations and updates, actually in-person meetings with BLM to update them on our progress. And they have not made any representation in terms of any entity having to remove the well pump or pipe.
Are we confident that our removal price is a legitimate price? Because if you look in the backup document, we only paid $1,800 to have that pump installed. The labor portion of that bill.
Chairman Angus.
And now we're talking $7,000 to $10,000 to remove it.
Right. Chairman Angus and Supervisor Gould, the county installed that pump in 2004 at a cost of $13,000. We estimate that the depreciated value now is about $1,300, and staff had reached out, given the fact that with our experience in operating water systems, obtained an estimate of about $7,000 to $10,000 that we would incur.
It just seems interesting that it was an $1,800 labor bill for installation, but it's going to be $7,000 to $10,000 to remove it. One of the invoices from the well contractor that installed that equipment, the breakdown was I think it was $1,800 for the labor portion of the installation. I could be looking at something.
That's correct, yes.
I could be looking at something.
The actual equipment itself totaled, Supervisor Gould, approximately $11,000. So the pump was $4,700. There was a motor of $5,000, as well as a drop cable of $1,000. And then the labor to install all those materials was $1,800. So that's how we arrived at the $13,000 cost in 2004.
And it just, even though it was 2004, it seems odd that if it was $1,800 in labor in 2004 to install it, that it would be $7,000 to $10,000 now, 15 years later to remove it. So I'm not sure that's actually a good price for the removal.
I understand the.
But even that being said, it's even if they charge us $1,800 to remove it, the depreciated, that's about the depreciated value of the pump itself.
Mm-hmm. That's correct, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
A motion?
Sure. Madam Chairman, I move that item 14 be adopted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 25, it's just to set a public hearing for February 10th, 2020 to consider adjusting and memorializing the fee schedule for Mojave County franchises and licenses for county rights-of-way occupation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm curious what a rights-of-way occupation is.
Chairman Angus, Supervisor Gould, members of the board, staff has put forth that term as it relates to any occupying entity, any entity that wishes to occupy county rights-of-way on a more permanent nature, which would rise to a level of beyond an encroachment permit and to a franchise or a license agreement. So when we represent the word occupation, it's primarily an outside the third-party entity installing their owned infrastructure in county rights-of-way. And we basically look at that much like a property-type lease, whereby a license or a franchise instrument would act as basically the leasing instrument for that third party. And in our case, it's namely utilities, but it can be private entities that run occasionally irrigation lines or other private infrastructure crossing public rights-of-way that would be operated, either the transmission of some commodity, namely water, usually, and the like. So giving them blanket privilege over a course of a period of time, typically 10 to 25 years, to own, operate, and maintain that infrastructure in county rights-of-way. So they're literally occupying it, but in a manner that's governed by that franchise and license agreement. And it gives that third party some sort of, solace, if you will, that they can go forward confidently in operating their infrastructure without, having to, undergo, permissions, each time they wish to enter the county right-of-way.
Sure. So we're not talking about people selling things on the side of the road then?
No, I'm
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that item 25 be adopted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public hearings from Development Services. I'm going to open the public hearing. Item 41, discussion and possible action. Approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2019-135, evaluation of a request to rescind and cause the property to revert from a C2 general commercial zone to the previous zone of RO single-family residential manufactured homes prohibited to a portion of NE1/4 to SE1 SE1/4 of Section 19, Township 22 North, Range 16 West, is requested by the applicant to create additional residential lots in place of commercial lots, and having not met the conditions of approval as specified in Board of Supervisor Resolution 2005-262, which approved the rezone in the Kingman vicinity, north of Luna Vista, west of Bank Street, Kingman area, Mojave County, Arizona, and the P&Z Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. Anyone wish to speak to item 41? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to adopt item number 41.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Opening the public hearing for item 42, discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2019-136, evaluation of a request for a modification of conditions for BOS Resolution number 2005-594 to remove the condition regarding the requirement of the commercial area to be designated and rezoned in the Kingman vicinity, north of Luna Vista, west of Bank Street, Kingman, Arizona. Again, Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. Oh, anyone, I'm so sorry. Anyone wishing to speak to item 42? Hearing and seeing none, I close the public hearing. Now I'll look at you.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to adopt item number 42.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To regular agenda from Public Works, discussion and possible action. Acknowledge receipt and refer to Public Works a petition to the Mojave County Board of Supervisors requesting that East Anasazi Drive from East Fleet Street to North Anasazi Place in the Desert Springs area, a length of approximately 1,400 feet, be accepted into the Mojave County road system for regular maintenance, subject to meeting all applicable requirements and subsequent board approval.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move for the adoption of item number 43.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 3-2. Motion carries. Item 44, Risk and Emergency Management brought this forward. Discussion and possible action. Approve an animals in county facilities policy that prohibits animals other than service animals as defined under Title 2 and 3 of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and canine dogs with law enforcement or other emergency services personnel from entering county facilities, with the exception of the county animal shelter and the county fairgrounds, and approve the county managers to sign the administrative procedure covering the policy and its implementation procedures. Anyone wish to discuss or motion?
I'll take a stab at
Okay,
discussion.
okay.
Having read the backup material, it appears that if you limit county buildings to only service animals, you can't ask a person whether if that's actually a service animal, I don't believe.
Is that federal law?
Yeah, and Byron can elaborate on this.
Okay.
There's certain questions you cannot ask them, which I think puts us in a bind.
That's correct, Supervisor Gould. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you can only ask two questions of individuals that bring animals into the office. One is it a service animal? And the other is what task is it trained to perform? You cannot ask for any type of certification or identification under the ADA to prove that that animal is a service animal. So that's all you really can do.
So essentially, I could come in with an animal, and you could say you need to leave with your animal if we were to pass this ordinance, and you really have no way to verify whether my animal is a service animal or not.
No, there's no way we can do that legally. Why you can ask the two questions, though, is if they say, yes, it's a service animal, and you ask them, well, what task is it trained to perform? A lot of people will say, well, it's trained to perform, it's trained to be my emotional support animal. And that means it's not a service animal. At that point, we can say it's not a service animal if it's an emotional support animal. we're only allowing service animals in. So that does give us a little bit of leverage to be able to eliminate some animals that are in effectively emotional support animals. Any pet can be considered an emotional support animal.
Sure.
And a lot of people try to use that as a means of getting their animal into the facility. So I think that does give us some leverage there. What we're primarily concerned about here is we've had a couple of departments approach us and say we've had some issues with animals that have been barking and disrupting business. I don't think we've had a big problem with that. It has happened occasionally, but however, what my concern as a risk manager is by letting certain animals in that are not service animals, we could have potential liability issues because of them spreading allergens inside the buildings. Also potential for them getting in fights with other dogs or potentially biting an employee or a member of the public. So I think by having this policy, we are, to a certain extent, protecting ourselves from liability, even though we have to err on the side of caution in terms of animals that we let inside the building. If there's any doubt at all whether they are not a service animal, whether they could be a service animal, we're going to have to err on the side of caution and let them in.
We can still ask service animals that were disruptive to leave.
Yes, we can. We can ask, typically a service animal, if it's a trained service animal, won't be disruptive, but you're absolutely correct. We can still ask them to leave. We can ask any animal to leave or ask their owner to take them out if they are being disruptive.
Okay. Since I had a constituent visit with a pig up on the 3rd floor of this building, and the pig was not disruptive, so I did not have to dismiss the pig.
Well,
but I wonder if it would be better off just asking people with disruptive animals to leave rather than getting us into the quagmire of is it a service animal, is it not a service animal?
well, we could go that
Madam
route.
Chairman?
Wait, you want to finish what you were saying?
It's just my feeling that having an overall policy makes it clear to our people what is allowed and what is not. Because I think the reason the question was raised from one of our departments was they didn't know whether they were allowed to ask a person to leave if they have a disruptive animal. I think we need to have a clear policy that applies to all departments. Right now, the libraries, they have a practice where they only allow service animals in. If they allowed some of the animals in that are brought to their door, which include homeless people with animals and a lot of other people, they would have a major problem with inside the library with both disruption issues and potential liability issues from animals that are carrying allergies or allergens in and that could be potentially aggressive.
Are we liable if someone's animal attacks somebody? Does that somehow blow back on the county?
It could, potentially, because it's in a county facility, yes. It's anything that happens on a county property or county facility nowadays is fair game, whether...
Right, the rule of deep pockets.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hendricks, did you have something to add to that?
Madam Chairman, I think risk management wouldn't have brought this before the board unless they felt it was an issue. This policy will also set the stage for employees bringing animals into the workplace. And I think it started, there was a complaint that we received regarding departments having adoption days, actually bringing in animals outside of what the regular duties were to adopt them out, maybe once a week or whatever. And there were people and employees that took issue with that because some people are sensitive to animals. This building and all of our buildings are for people to come in and do the people's business, not to be fearful for any reason or not to be hesitant for any reason to be able to perform those duties.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. Okay, anyone else?
Chairman Angus, I'll make a motion to approve.
I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, item 45, I'm going to move item 45, it's an executive session item, to the end of the meeting, so we can go back into executive session, if that's okay with the board. Okay?
Without objection.
Yeah, well, I can do that, I can move it, so I'm just being polite. Okay, item 46. From procurement, discussion and possible action, approve utilizing Mojave Educational Services Cooperative, MESC contract number 17A-ESI 051, temporary recruitment services with education services, and execute the agreement for employee staffing for Mike Hendricks as county manager.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to move for the adoption of item number 46.
Is there any discussion before we get a second? Okay, I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 47, discussion and possible action, authorize development services to work with the landowners and residents of Moccasin, Arizona to develop a zoning plan for the community that provides for the changes in land use and density that have occurred since the RE/10A zone was established, hold a public meeting in the area, and process that plan through the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors at no cost to the property owners. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Angus. Bring this item forth because of the unusual situation that we have in Moccasin, Arizona. Maybe you may not know this, but Moccasin is on the border with Arizona and Utah in the Colorado Strip area. A number of years ago, when they received the designation, there was some confusion on the public understanding of that situation up there. We could have Mr. Walsh give us a better indication on this, but I would like to make a motion for the adoption.
Okay. Any discussion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Walsh is not going to tell us.
No, he's not going to tell us, because Supervisor Watson did such a good job of it. Okay, so now we're going to go to item 45, which will be the last item of the day, and I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we come back, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
we did have some people from Moccasin here.
Oh, I'm
signed
so
up to speak.
sorry. I'm so sorry. We did. That's my error.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll go back, and do I have to do anything to open it back up?
It's on the agenda. It's on the agenda, just to acknowledge that we're going back to item 47 to hear from the gentleman.
Okay, well, since everybody was in favor, I suppose you're happy now.
Very happy, thank you. And
Okay,
I promise
but you sat here all day and came
I won't take
down.
long. Members, thank you very much for the time. My name is Darren Brown, located at 51 South Main, Moccasin, Arizona. And we just wanted to go on record. And by the way, when I say we, I do have the support of the town. I represent, on these papers, I have signatures representing over 85% of the landowners in Moccasin. And we wanted to go on record expressing our sincere thanks to Mr. Gary Watson and to Ms. Ballard for their efforts and the way that this article is written. We're in full support. We did have one thing we'd like to bring up, is that if we could address maybe the way notifications are given to us on the other side of the Grand Canyon on things that come up before the board and how we might be able to participate. McKay, if you wanted to kind of address, in the past, we weren't quite sure how proper or what proper notification was. We kind of stumbled upon things in the past, but again, we appreciate Mr. Watson reaching out to us in regards to this particular meeting. Is there something we could address or a way we could help in maybe assisting with the notification to the good folks in Moccasin on matters that pertain to that part of the county?
Well, what I would suggest is maybe meet with the county manager, meet with staff to address that issue, because that's really a different issue than what is on the agenda for today, and we can go into detail about that. But I can assure you that anytime we publish things, it's always according to what the law requires. So, but I'd recommend you talk first with Development Services about that, and then the county manager, and then if an item needs to be brought back to the board, then it can be brought back.
We'll do it. And again, thank you very much, and we would like to invite all of you to come out and see us very, very soon in Moccasin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and again, I apologize for not calling you up before the vote. And I have two more. Anybody wish to speak that's here from Moccasin? Okay. Well, thank you for coming all this way.
Madam Chair, I think Supervisor Johnson had something to say. I thought I
Supervisor Johnson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. It wasn't about that agenda item, but I believe you can check with the attorney. We can adjourn the meeting because this isn't an action item and then go into executive session so we don't continue to run tape.
Can I do that? Can I adjourn the meeting?
No, I would not, just because we may have to make a motion on this particular item. I mean, we can notify the public that we're not going to address anything else other than this last item.
Right.
If people want to stay, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson?
All right.
Okay. So we had a motion and we voted to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You betcha. It was laying.
I know, what is it?